What's up, everybody? It's Talkin Brash, episode 14. This one is a rare pre-recorded version of Talkin Brash. It'll air Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. But yeah, let's pay some bills before we get going with our guest. I have a website and all sorts of shit going on. I changed my YouTube channel. I have a Twitch. Everything's under the name of Loki Guitar Official. It's also LokiGuitarOfficial.com. The merch store is finally up. There's shirts, there's coffee mugs, there's fucking masks, there's a hoodie, because it's hoodie season almost, and I'm excited about that. When the air gets crisp, man, gets me ready to rock, you know what I'm saying? So, visit the website, LokiGuitarOfficial.com, and you'll see the merch store on the site. I'm trying to grow the YouTube channel. So go there. All the links are on the website. So hit me up on YouTube and Twitch, and yeah, let's grow the channel as best we can. And I appreciate you guys for helping me out with that. Today we have, he's no longer the rookie on the scene. He's now a fucking grizzled vet. You know, it's 2020 now, and I've now known this guy longer than I'd like to admit, because that means I'm old. So let me fucking introduce the one, the only Noah Bailey, a.k.a. Shadow Windhawk. How are you, bro?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. So it's been a while since we caught up. I actually probably really haven't talked to you since we did that one tour, right? Like, it's really not been... Well, I saw you actually, no, at Trioxin Tribute.
Yeah. I guess last year would have been the last time
Yeah.
I saw you, like, in person.
My life's
Yeah.
been a whirlwind, so, like, my memory is just super fucking hazy about when things have occurred.
Yeah, no, I totally feel that, man.
Like,
It's been weird lately, especially too, you know.
yeah. So before we go back, what's going on lately with you? Like, what are you involved in doing a project, or have you put that on pause? Like, where are you, like, creatively, musically?
Um, from a music standpoint, I've just kept writing, so I'm kind of, being quiet about it. Like when an idea comes, I just pull out my phone, my notepad, and I'll write down lyrics when I'm like on the train or even if I'm at work and I get an idea or something. But I intend to do a fourth Morticians record. I'm just kind of sorting through everything that I have and like, trying to fish out the best of what I got.
Right.
And I want to take my time. But aside from that, I mean, COVID really fucking socked everything into the Stone Age. So like, I am involved in another project that's new.
Okay.
I'm not at liberty
You
to
can't
like
discuss it yet.
reveal it yet,
Right. Right.
but
Right.
everyone's gonna see it soon enough,
Well,
and
will I know
so that'll
other
be cool.
members? Can we at least say that? Will I know other members or no?
Yes,
Okay. Cool.
definitely.
Is there a plan when you guys will unleash that, or is that just still an ongoing thing where it's still in the infancy, or?
It's still in its infancy. I'm not sure any about like any release dates for anything
Right.
right now. For my own stuff, for my solo project, Shadow Windhawk and the Morticians, I'm trying to do a proper vinyl release for the last record I put out because I only did CD for it.
Right.
So I got new artwork done for that. My friend Joel Robinson did the art for it again. He did
Cool.
my last record, and I'm hoping that will come out in the spring. It was supposed to be a Halloween thing this year, but it just wasn't going to happen.
Right.
So
Yeah, nothing's happening this Halloween, bro. Fucking
yeah.
what a weird year, man. I couldn't ever imagine this, bro. I really couldn't have ever imagined this.
Same. Yeah.
It's obviously it's beyond anything I've ever seen. For things to have been completely shut down like that. When sports began to get shut down in the spring, that's when I'm like, because I was pessimistic. I'm like, I don't know if we could do that here. The enterprise, the fucking money that's thrown around in these fucking billion-dollar corporations. There's no way they're gonna let this fucking stop everything. And when sports stopped, I'm like, all right, no, this is now reached into things that's crazy. If you
Yeah.
can stop a billion
Yeah.
dollar corporation from making money, that's fucking something else.
yeah, it all really ground to a halt so quickly. Like it was in the city it was early March, so I did a coffee trade show on March 10th at the Javits
Yeah.
Center, and we were the last trade show to happen and before they turned it into like a field hospital. So and I got sick with COVID for about 6 weeks,
Did you?
and
I did
that's
not know that.
yeah, yeah, and that's where I think I got it, because one of the dudes I was working a booth for Think Coffee. It's my day job,
Right.
and one of the guys I was working with 2 days after that show emailed me, and he's like, "I got tested. I have coronavirus," and it all just really happened quickly. Like I didn't even know I was sick until after that weekend had passed, and it was like the following Monday I just was feeling like hell, and they hadn't yet announced that one of the early symptoms is losing your sense of smell and your sense of taste, like
Right.
completely. And that happened to me like the week before. Like I went into work, I tried tasting coffee, and I couldn't taste anything, and I didn't know what the hell was wrong with me. I thought I had allergies.
Yeah, yeah.
And then and then he hit me up. He's like, "I've got it." I was like, "Oh no!" And then it just all went downhill from there. Like the next week, the store closed indefinitely. I got furloughed, and then I was just out on my ass for like the next 5 straight weeks, just trying to get better. And
Was it
um,
was it that something that really did knock you on your ass, or did you get a mild case and just like took it
oh,
easy, or what?
it was like the best way I can describe it is like it was like walking pneumonia. Like I was functional to an extent, um, but it took a long time to get better.
Right.
Like uh, I was bedridden for the first 2 weeks, and I didn't really leave my apartment at all the whole time because I was nervous about like giving it to
Getting
somebody
someone else
else.
sick. Yeah.
Yeah, so I quarantined in my apartment for pretty much the whole time I was sick, and I only went out to like get groceries, and I waited a few weeks before I even did that. Um, and yeah, I just got through it. But I mean, at that time too, it was like I kind of wanted to go to a doctor, but they were saying if you can manage symptoms at home,
Yeah. It's
don't
just to
bother going.
stay the fuck at home because
Um,
it's already overrun.
yeah, and the part of Queens I live in right now was like the epicenter of the epicenter. Like Elmhurst Hospital is not very far off.
Right.
Wyckoff Heights is like not very far at all. I think it's like less than a mile from my apartment. So,
What'd you do?
and
Just order groceries. Just have everything delivered.
there's a grocery store not too far from my apartment, so I would just hoof it. But I was only doing that like once a week at
Right.
maximum, and that was the only time I was going out. And it just, yeah, it was just really weird, man. Like my girlfriend and I would take walks through the cemetery, Linden Hill Cemetery, like right down the street, and we started noticing in April just fresh graves like every single time we were going in there, and it
Yeah.
got so bad that one day we went through there, and one of the groundskeeper guys was like, "You can't be in here anymore. Like we're unless you're actually visiting someone buried here, like
Right.
we don't want anybody in here at all." And I guess
It seems to be
yeah,
the
that
least
gave me
likely
some.
place you're gonna spread coronavirus is a cemetery.
Yeah, you'd think. Um, I mean, it was just very surreal though.
Yeah.
Like that, I remember that day there were grave diggers in full blown like head to foot
Like
hazmat suits,
fucking a.
and their supervisor was yelling at them, and we walked by, and he's like, "Make sure to double glove. Wear gloves under your gloves." And I was
Right.
just like, "Oh my god, dude! Like this is too fucking real right
So
now."
crazy. So crazy.
Yeah,
I saw a
yeah,
picture the other day of a baseball field, and it's from the stands, and like it's behind the field level seats, and you just see cardboard cutout fans.
yep.
Then the baseball field, and then it was in California, so you saw the fires behind the field. So it's like
Oh
this
man.
dystopian fucking picture of cardboard cutout fans behind a fucking apocalyptic fire scene. Crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. Uh,
This is where we're
yeah,
living.
I know. It's so weird. Have you watched a baseball game?
I've watched some sports. I've watched some baseball games. I saw football this weekend. The football stuff is weird. Baseball is also weird, but the football stuff, we're talking about 100,000 seat stadiums, 80,000 seat stadiums. You know,
Yeah, with nobody in them.
nobody in
Super
them.
weird.
Nobody in them. And
Yeah.
yeah, the baseball stuff is weird. Like at least the indoor arena stuff, like hockey, I think to me looks cool. Like because they have like the Zoom calls where the fans are on these Zoom screens, which is pretty fucking cool. Like so they've made like
Yeah,
the
that's
indoor
actually
arena
pretty
stuff
cool.
they've made look cool. But it's still like super weird. Like here we are. This is the future of not going to an arena anymore. You're just in a Zoom call watching a game. What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, it's super weird. And then basketball's being played at Disney World in the bubble.
In the bubble, yeah.
Yeah.
Some guy
Yeah,
got
it's something.
some guy got in trouble because he tried to bring his side piece. He snuck her into the bubble. I think she was
Oh
dressed
no.
as like she snuck in as a chef or something, and that's how she got into the bubble. Then he got caught though. They kicked him out. Daniel House
Yeah.
from Houston. But
Yeah.
what the fuck? I could never, like I said before, I could never fucking imagine this. And
I
I'm
don't think
scared for the
anybody could,
future.
man. It wasn't like on anybody's list of
No,
possible disasters that could take place.
I was
You
on an
know.
acoustic tour when it started. Leading up to it, we were hearing the news from China, and then my friends in Europe were hitting me up because it was leading up. I think we left for on acoustic tour like in late February. So
Hmm.
like I'm already getting reports from my friends in Europe, like yo, being locked down. Um, and as we were playing the Northeast, and that was in March, like early March, we were heading down south. Dude, it was literally every state that we left was starting to get shut down behind us. It was just like this weird path of fucking like we knew was inevitable before we had to stop, but we literally just tried to make as much money as we could before we had to head back home because you could see the future was just going to be super shaky and sketchy. We were all worried about rent and
Oh yeah.
everything else. So we just
Yeah.
tried to fucking like listen. We're gonna go until they make us stop because what choice do we have right now? So we did that. I think our last show was March 11th, some place around there.
Yep. Yep. That sounds right. That's crazy, man. That was the first thought I had actually when things fully started to lock down. Like I'd been talking to Goolsby a little bit about that Blitzkid tour, and I was like, dude, I don't know if you've spoken to your booking agent, but like my boss just detailed what we're gonna do if like martial law is declared. I
Yeah,
was like, you might want to like figure out what you're gonna do, and he was like, I don't want to cancel, but I think you're right, and it was just
yeah.
like that. It was over, and I was like, all of my like, I have a bunch of friends that is what they do, and they don't have a day job, and I was just like, I don't know what everybody's gonna do.
It's been tough sledding, man, and it's you know this has been like it's made me go in and really redefine how I do things, what I'm gonna do in the future. And I have a whole new situation now where I can't go back to what I was in, so that's even
Right,
fucking worse.
right.
Um, so yeah, I'm just trying to fucking figure out the path for the future, but I'm worried to fuck, not just myself, but like the venues. Like, are there
Oh
gonna
yeah.
be venues when this is over? Like, all the small businesses are getting pummeled.
Yeah,
They're
we've
not
had
able to
some
pay.
close already
Yeah,
in
it's
and
scary,
like
dude.
Revolution. You guys played at
Yeah.
Revolution, right?
Yep.
That's closed, gone, totally gone already. And if you're familiar with Knitting Factory too, right?
Don't tell me they're done.
They're talking about it. They're saying if Congress doesn't act in the next few months, they might not come back either. So it's
Fuck, man.
it's
It's
pretty serious. I don't know if
the
people fully realize it yet because there's just so much shit going on across the board that
the
I feel like
places in the city is especially scary because the lease to rent over there is fucking sky high. So
Right.
those places are definitely going to struggle and perhaps close. So New York City is in definite danger of losing everything because there people from reports. I grew up in North Jersey. Okay, so all the reports from my friends is that Manhattan, New York City, everyone's on mass exodus. They're going to Jersey, and everyone from Jersey's like, "Fuck this! I'm getting out of Jersey."
Right. Right. Yeah, it's a lot of people are leaving. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm hopeful. Like, being at the cafe kind of gives me a little bit of a snapshot of
Right.
of the recovery, so to speak. Even though I'm getting a pretty narrow perspective because I'm in Tribeca, so I only see like what is happening in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's an incredibly affluent neighborhood. Obviously, like the average income there is like $900,000 a year.
Fucking crazy.
A lot of those people, they've got second homes. They can take off, go to Connecticut. They can go to the Hamptons. They can, they have options.
Yeah.
So like, I was fortunate enough to be called back to work in June, and when I was called back, it was just, sales were down 86%
Really?
from normal.
Is it still that way now?
It's been climbing back up, but it's super slow. It's like, we recovered a little bit in July, but still not really. And
Right.
then this month, though, I noticed people starting to come back, and some of them were regulars before the lockdown. So
Right.
I've been picking their brains. I'm like, what happened? And it's what I suspected. In most cases, it's they've freaked out about the virus. Some of them even weren't going to leave because of the virus, but then when the George Floyd protests got really heated and all the looting happened in Soho, like Soho's neighboring Tribeca, so like
Right.
a lot of them took off at that point and just split for the whole summer, and then now they're starting to come back, but everything's in flux. I just feel like we're in a transitional period. It's a period of change, and it's really uncertain, and that's scary for everybody. But
There's going to be permanent change coming out of that because these people have now learned that they can work from home. So all that office space that has been leased out, all that there's now, because of the necessity of this change, they're not going to need that office space and spend all that money on buildings, and people are going to work from home, so people don't need to live in the city, and people, so there will be permanent change and a permanent, exodus out of there.
Exactly. I mean, we're just trying to hold on. I think all the restaurants are right now.
Yeah.
It's just take what you can get and hope that we can kind of scrape through the next 6 months and see the other side of it. And unfortunately, I've been reading that already like a third of the small businesses have been closing permanently.
A lot of them won't make it.
Yeah, a lot of them won't make it, and I mean, we're hoping to be the exception to that. But when you go from like, not to divulge too much information about my day job or anything, but like that store was on track to do like $1 million in sales this year, and that's like $86,000, $90,000 in sales a month.
Mm-hmm.
To go from that to like barely squeaking out 20 grand a month.
Fucking
the
hell.
Landlords are
freaking out.
Are starting litigation. Everybody's just lost all this money, and everyone's freaking out, doesn't know what to do. So it's scary. It's real. I mean, you just gotta hope for the best, I guess. And I also hope that Congress will eventually get their shit together, because if they don't do something for the city is it's going to suffer even more later. Like it already is, but it could get worse. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to the East Coast, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a trip.
Yeah. Well, I know you're a glutton for punishment just by the hat you're wearing. How are you a Met fan?
I've watched every game this season, and I don't know.
This is how I know you're a masochist for sure. Just like, let me watch this team and just hate life because it doesn't suck enough. I have to watch this team.
like that Twitter status I sent you. It's like reasons why I watch the Mets. I hate myself. uh, it's
So,
like they're such a great team, but they're also just they can never win.
yeah,
Like they
much
have so many
promise.
good things going for them, but they always fuck it up. Like a game ended the other night on a pickoff, but it wasn't just a pickoff. They called him safe. It was Rosario sliding back to first base, the shortstop. And this is like our last chance to tie things up against the Blue Jays. We're down 1 run. They called him safe, and then there was a challenge, which of course now that's a thing in baseball. So the Blue Jays
So they
challenged
replayed
the
that shit.
play. They replayed it, and they're like, "Oh, he's out," and that ended the game. Like it ended on a pickoff, and it
What
was just
an
like
anticlimactic way to finish anything. Let the guy at
classic
least
Mets.
strike out. You know.
Oh, that's the other thing. He got on base because he struck out, and the ball got away from the catcher, and he was able to take first base.
That's
so that's how
hilarious.
he even got on in the first place. We're like, oh my God, there's a chance, and then he gets picked off.
That's a
and
Mets
it's
way
like,
to lose.
oh,
The Mets way
it
to
is.
lose.
It
I
defines
remember,
like the whole season.
like right at the beginning of everyone coming back, like Cespedes was just like, "Fuck this shit, I'm leaving."
Yeah, like right away. It was like the second week.
Yeah.
He was out. That was funny.
So, all right. So before you get to New York City, were you born in Utah or did you get there when you were little? Like, what's your backstory? I've never really got the full Shadow Windhawk backstory. What is it?
So my parents were living in Chicago. My mom went to the University of Chicago, and I was born there. They got sick of living there. My dad had enough of big city life, and so we moved when I was a baby to Salt Lake, and I grew up there and lived there pretty much, yeah, like my whole life up until September 2016. I decided to move out here.
Right.
To be closer. Like, I mean, most of my friends are out this way, and I had been playing in Goolsby's band, so it just kind of made more sense for me to be out here. And it's always been a little bit more my speed.
Right.
Like, I don't think I could have stayed in Salt Lake my whole life. It
How
just
old are you
wasn't
now?
for me. I'm 28.
28.
Mm-hmm.
So you went to the SLC Punk High School, no? Yes?
I did, yeah, the exact one from the movie, West
So
High School.
tell me about this. What was that like? What, and what influenced you to even be involved in like in the music industry, specifically, in the horror rock genre? Like what inspired you to do that, and what was it like going through all that in SLC Punk world?
Um, I grew up obviously loving horror movies, and I was fortunate to have parents that were supportive of me being into what I was into. I think they realized that I knew that a lot of the gore and stuff in the movies was obviously makeup,
Right.
and I had a fascination with the makeup, and I'd buy makeup kits and do makeups on myself and try to like make fake wounds and all this stuff. And so like horror and Halloween were like my thing from a super early age. And then rock and roll just kind of came naturally. And, my dad was into a lot of good shit. So I got exposed to some things from him, but then punk rock kind of just, I'm not even sure like where it came from exactly. I would listen to alternative radio a lot when I was pretty young, like 11, 12 years old. There was a radio station, KXRK, X96 in Salt Lake, and they were playing a lot of stuff like, I mean, I'm going to date myself, I'm a baby, but, when I was super young, it was like early aughts, pop punk, AFI.
Right.
I don't even remember how I got exposed to them initially. I think it was probably the radio, but I found AFI and I found the Misfits, I think because of AFI. And I ended up buying that Legacy of Brutality CD from Heavy Metal Shop in Salt Lake, which is a record store. It's been in Salt Lake since the 80s. And that kind of started things for me as far as like horror punk goes. And then strangely enough, in Salt Lake, there was like a local horror punk scene, if you want to call it that. There was a show that happened in Salt Lake at a haunted house called Rocky Point Haunted House. I was 12, and it was the lineup of Misfits with Des Cadena and Robo, and the local horror punk bands opened for Misfits. And
who was this at that time? Do you remember?
This would have been Left for Dead was one of them, and Die Monster Die was the other one.
Right.
And
did you
Die Monster Die, I ended up joining their band right out of high school. I graduated high school early. In 2009, I graduated. I was 17, and they needed a guitar player. I got a fake ID.
Right.
And I started playing bar shows with them. And yeah,
That's what we did for Joe. Joe found a fake ID, and that's how we would get into bars.
Yeah, it was sketchy. And I remember when I auditioned, they're like, we like you, but you're super young. Like, how is this gonna work? You're gonna need an ID to get in every time. And I was like, I'll figure it out. Like, I'll get a fake. I'll get one from a friend or something, and I'll just own it. And nobody's gonna think twice about it. And they were like, okay, we'll give it a shot. Like, if you get screwed over at the door and it screws up a show, like, that's it. You just got to accept that this isn't going to work. Somehow I pulled it off. So
what is this, like 2008-ish, 2009-ish?
It would have been, I think I officially joined in 2010.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. Yeah, and that was in high school, that was kind of my thing, was that, you know, when I started listening more to the horror punk stuff, I was like, I really, really fucking like this. And it's like my two favorite things are colliding. I didn't realize that there was actually a scene outside of those few bands that were kind of doing like the spooky punk thing, you know. And when I realized,
how'd you find that stuff? Like, where? So, you know, obviously the Misfits opened the door, and you know AFI is there, but like, what made you reach out and find everyone else, and who did you find?
So it's really weird. I mean, it was just like one thing leading to another. The Die Monster Die guys, the drummer, had a record label called Dr. Cyclops Records. He had Left for Dead on that label, and he did a compilation album called The Horror of It All.
Mm-hmm.
There was 2 volumes of it, and it was a bunch of bands from the scene. Like Calabrese was on there. Rosedales were on there. Like, it just kind of like opened the door, and suddenly I was like, oh man, there's all these underground bands. So I kind of fell down that rabbit hole and just started going on the internet looking for horror punk bands. And I remember I had just gotten the iPod Nano,
right?
Like the first one, and I got an Apple subscription. I guess it was just iTunes at the time, but you could download albums, and this was still like not in its infancy, but it was still a thing. Like, it wasn't like Spotify or like streaming or whatever. Like, you actually had to go out, find something you really like, buy it, download it. And I specifically remember getting that Mr. Monster album. It's the one that was re-released, and it has the eyes as the cover, with like the shattered glass.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, that one and Let Flowers Die by Blitzkid, like, that was kind of what did it for me in the end. Like, I was like, I want to do this. Like, I actually want to learn how to do this. And I got my first guitar as a birthday present when I was 10. I never really figured out how to play. I got some lessons when I was 12, but I kind of gave up early, and then I learned primarily just by screwing around with friends of mine who played. and one of my friends was really good, and he taught me power chords.
Right.
You know, he started teaching me like pentatonic minor scale, like all of the basic things, and then I just kind of caught on to things. I'd listen and I'd play by ear and try and play along with things. One of my friends came up with this idea that we should do a band, and it, you know, we didn't know what the hell we were doing, so we weren't really able to do anything at all. But we came up with a name that I thought was kind of cool. It was going to be called the Grave Dancers.
Okay.
And but you know, he was all about horror punk. This was my friend Parker in high school. I was all about it. He was going to play bass. I was going to play guitar. I was like, I don't know how to sing, but like, we'll figure it out. And yeah, you know, nothing ever happened, but it like, that was kind of where it started, I guess. So.
Fucking A. When did you, how did you get the nickname? When did that start? Was that during Die Monster Die? Like, when did you get Shadow Windhawk, and what made you, like, all right, I get it. You're Noah Bailey your whole life, so you probably think the name fucking is whatever. I think Noah Bailey's a great name. I don't see anything wrong with it. So what was the fucking transition to fucking Shadow Windhawk?
Well, it's funny. I mean, all the dudes in Die Monster Die had funny, weird, spooky names.
Right.
And they had kind of a tradition of naming dudes when they'd get somebody who would join the band officially, take on a different persona. Usually they'd wear masks. I did face paint. I think I was like one of the only guys that joined that band that did face paint. Usually it was a mask. So I knew, like, when I got my in and they were like, you know, you're in, I was like, well, now I have to have a character. And Zero DeLorean, the singer, was like, you know what? Let's call you Windhawk. And I was like, where did that come from? And it was like, it started off as a joke. He'd be like, Windhawk, oh, you know, I don't even know, like, it was funny, but you know where it actually came from was Zero is a huge Lemmy Kilmister fan.
Okay.
And he loves Motorhead, and so Hawk Wind was, you know, that space rock band Lemmy was in, and so like in his mind he just flipped it
right.
Yeah, he's like, you're Windhawk, it's badass. And at first I remember I was like, I don't know, dude, like it sounds kind of whack. And he's like, no, you know what, own it. He's like, maybe it sounds funny right now. He's like, but if you own that shit, nobody's gonna question it.
Right.
Like, you just, if you believe it, everyone else will believe it. And, you know, lo and behold, it stuck.
It stuck.
And it is what it is. But the Shadow thing was my own, like, addition to it, because I wanted a first and a last name. They hated it, man. They hated it. They're like, what are, oh yeah, they're like, what are you?
You just told me to own it. I'm going to own it.
I know. Like, it sounds like a dog's name. Like, just be Windhawk. Why do you got to add that to it? And they're like, I'm like, I don't know, because I'm a fucking goth kid. Like, leave me alone. So yeah, that's how it came about. Like, there's no fascinating story behind it. It was just we were at rehearsal one day, fucking around, drinking, and you're Windhawk. Now I was like, okay, all right.
Better than the name that Ralph and Jason gave me, like, the first time. Yeah, because I guess there's just like a fucking need to change your name to something spooky. You know, we had my poor friend Mike Forte. We called him Foreplay. So they were so they were calling me fucking Carlos Coffin. Is my last name's Cofino. How fucking clever! Thanks, guys. Carlos Coffin.
That's amazing.
And then, like, as we became like friendlier and like they knew more about me, they just changed my name to Los Locos. Because, dude, when I was younger, man, I was a complete maniac. A complete maniac.
You know, I believe it.
And
I believe it.
That turned into just Loco, and then cute. One day, just from being cute, either Joe or Jason was like, "Yo, why don't we just call you Loki instead of Loco?" Like, and I'm like, you know what? A lot better than Los Locos. So yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, I think it suits you. I mean, I met you as Loki, so Carlos is the weird one for me.
Could you
I guess.
imagine, like, if it was Carlos coughing all this time?
Carlos, man, there was like a whole thing on MySpace with that. Do you remember that? Like, I had a stupid ass MySpace name
What was that? I don't.
before Noah Nightmare.
Noah Nightmare. Damn. Yeah.
Like, thank God that period ended.
Yeah.
Man, it could be worse. Like Shadow Windhawk, it's all right. It is what it is.
Yeah. No, that's doable. No, Bailey, not bad, dude. Not fucking bad.
Yeah, thanks.
your, your parents did a
My
good job.
parents.
Congrats.
They everyone's like, "Oh, you're named after the biblical character." I'm like, actually, my mother was on the way to the hospital going into labor, and my dad was listening to the radio, and the DJ's name was Noah, and they're like, "That's perfect." So like, actually, wasn't the Bible, believe it
Right.
or not, but I don't know. I've always struggled with that because
They really didn't plan ahead, huh? Like.
no, not really. Like they told me, and like, thank God I was born male because they were like, if you were a girl, we were gonna name you Maud. I was like, oh,
Mod?
Maud. I could have been a Maud. That's not good. Like I'm not
Oh.
cool with that. So I won in that
Yeah.
battle. Yeah, yeah, man.
So fucking all right. So you joined Die Monster Die. How long were you in them, and what made you branch off into a solo artist? And in this whole time too, I know Willie's from out there, um, with the best fucking name ever, Zombie Cock.
Oh man, yeah, I love
So
those
did you know
guys.
those guys? Like, were you in the same crew? Like, how? Tell me about everything. Like from that point of Die Monster Die.
Well, so Die Monster Die didn't last as long as I wanted it to. It was just really tough. I mean, there's a big age gap between me and those guys, and they'd been doing it a long time. And admittedly, I was fired up. I was a kid.
Right.
I was excited.
You're on
I
just
had,
on a different speed.
yeah. I mean, I was,
You still had hopes and dreams and aspirations, and those guys were beaten down
yeah,
by life.
yeah. And I looked up to them. Like they were one of my favorite bands. So like when I joined, I was just so stoked, so excited. I wanted immediately to write an album with them. Like I wanted to do stuff. And the bass player for that band was my friend Ruben, who was in another kind of horror psychobilly band in the Salt Lake scene called Spooky DeVille.
Mm-hmm.
And they would open for Die Monster Die sometimes. I would go to the all ages shows when they would happen, and so like we all knew each other from me being a kid going to their shows. And Ruben was younger too. He's still older than me, but the age gap wasn't as significant. He also like he wanted to do stuff. He joined the band because he wanted to record, and we kind of had hopes of touring and doing stuff. And I think for Zero and for Shane, that ship had already kind of set sail for them. And I wasn't really willing to let it go. So I pushed and pushed and pushed. And in hindsight, I feel like I probably shouldn't have. And I think I overstepped a little bit in there
Right.
too. Unfortunately, I was just hindsight's 2020. I was excited just to be a part of something like that. And I wanted to be creative. I wanted to do stuff. So I pushed the issue about doing an album. And I think they did want to do it, but I think the way I went about trying to make it happen was a little bit too, like, putting on a little bit too much pressure.
Right.
Because
I
when
mean, in retrospect, I mean, yeah, of course you live and you learn, and maybe you were pushy, but it is the age gap. Like, you were hungry, ready to fucking roll, and they probably, I don't know if they had families or anything like that, but like, It's just you know, you guys were in a different place in fucking life. There was actually, honestly, there's really nothing wrong with what you wanted to do because there is a sense of urgency. This is a young man's game, so you probably weren't
Right.
the right fit for them, and they weren't the right fit for you, and that's, you know, it just is what it
Yeah.
is. It's not your fault, but yeah, that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I think you're right. But at the time, it was just like, I guess I wasn't willing to let it go. And Kickstarter and Indiegogo and crowdsourcing was brand new.
Right.
And so I caught wind of it because
I
of
think that's
Goolsby.
my first memory of you actually is through when Darrow had the Indiegogo going on, and
Oh yeah, yeah. I feel like that was like right around when we actually kind of got acquainted with each other
yeah,
because of Joe. Um, yeah, so like Blitzkid was embarking on their farewell tour, and I saw that Goolsby had successfully funded the Return of the Living stuff
right,
on Kickstarter. And so, like, at that time, Die Monster Die was rehearsing in my garage, and, we were all broke and didn't really have a plan as far as how to finance doing a studio album. And, I was like, we should do a 12-inch vinyl. Like, the band hasn't really had a proper 12-inch vinyl release before, and I feel like now is a good time. And I was excited about crowdsourcing because I saw it as a new tool, a new means of producing.
right.
And they were skeptical. Um, and I get it, but I was met with like,
Old
really,
heads.
you want to raise $5,000 to put a vinyl out? Like, nobody gives a shit. Nobody's gonna go for that. And I was
Right,
like, I don't know. I think you guys are selling yourselves short. Like, this is a great band. This band has great albums. Like, people remember this band. We should put something out and try and like take it to the next level. And
right.
then, on the success of that, we could go out on a mini tour. And so I was pushing and pushing, and they were like, nah, I don't want to do it. And finally they were like, all right, you know what? You want to do this? Go ahead and try.
Right.
And I don't think that Shane thought I was going to be able to
I was
pull it
I
off.
was just about to say that sounds like, all right, kid. You think you know what you're talking about? Go ahead and waste your time. That's what
Yeah,
that sounds like.
basically like,
Right,
well, okay, you can use the band name and like go ahead and I guess just give it a shot.
right.
And I did, and we did it. And when we did it, we raised $6,000. They were like,
What?
oh,
I guess
we
we
have
gotta.
to
I
make,
guess we gotta release this on vinyl
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. They were like, oh, we have to make an album. And I was like, fuck yeah, we did it. We're gonna make a record. I'm so stoked. I was
Yeah.
like on the moon. I think they were just kind of like, fuck, now we got to do a bunch of
Fuck.
work.
We shouldn't have told
And
him to do it.
yeah, exactly. So, so then what ensued was a very arduous, very, very difficult, strained writing process. Um, it was like pulling teeth. Like, I don't even know really what happened, but there was a lot of tension. I felt like they were becoming frustrated with me for
Right.
making shit happen, because I would come to them with an idea. I'd be like, hey, like, here's an idea for a solid album cover. Like, we got to have really great artwork to match what we're doing. Like, part of the thing that I sold people on as a Kickstarter was that if you were like one of the upper echelon of people that donated, we would put your face in the cover.
Right.
So I came up with this idea that the cover would be a wall calendar in a serial killer's like den or lair, and he would take the fans and have them on individual days of the month of October.
Gotcha.
Like, he was going to kill this person on this day and this person on this day, whatever. So like all the people that donated ended up being physically placed on this wall calendar. And then my friend Jimmy, who is the set designer and kind of like creative genius behind Nightmare on 13th Haunted House in Salt Lake, he designed a set in the garage where we would rehearse. So like we took a whole corner of the garage and converted it into this like horror movie set. And he put a lot of details in it. I had my wisdom teeth pulled, and I challenged the oral surgeon to take them out intact so that I could put them in the album cover. So like the teeth on that album cover are actually my teeth.
Your teeth.
Yeah, and I don't know. So like we wanted it to be
You're
gritty.
lucky because they usually don't give a fuck about those teeth. They're like, let's just rip it out of there. They'd fucking drill it, hammer it, fucking crush it into pieces.
He even said that. He was like, usually like we split it into chunks and pull it out. And I was like,
this way you're not in immense pain.
Yeah. I was like, but how about a challenge though? Could you get them out intact? And he was the sort of doctor who's like, He's like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And he did it. So I used them. And but so I was motivated. I was trying to get stuff done. And I also like knew that once that money dropped in, we were on a clock. Like you can only take X amount of time to put something out like that. These people have invested money into it. I got them fired up about it. They were excited about it. It's like, okay, now we got to strike while the iron is hot. And there was just a lot of like dragging your feet. They weren't quite as motivated. And again, that also stems from like me being young and kind of aggressive and fired up about it. And they were like, no, let's just take our time. And I'm like, no, like we need to get this done. Like we need to get this shit out. And inevitably, like we did write the album. We recorded the album.
Right.
But that was in 2013, and this whole thing happened that year where Matt Pathetic wanted to book Die Monster Die to be one of the headliners for Ghouls Night Out. I got pushed back from the drummer. He was apprehensive about doing it, but Zero, the singer, he wanted to do it. So I was like, if I get another drummer, would you do it? He was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And I was like, amazing. So, and then Shane, the drummer, he kind of gave us this like, well, if you're going to do it type thing. Like, I don't want to hold the band back because I personally am not in a position where I want to travel across the country to Jersey and do this. And so I was like, okay, so I'm going to get another drummer. And he's like, okay. But I kind of got this feeling like it's not going to be okay. And
yeah, you just know where it's just like, why can't just people be honest? You know what I mean? Yo, if you don't want me to fucking do this, just say it. This way, when you tell me that it's okay and then I do it and then you get mad, that's stupid. That's stupid.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of saw it coming, but again, it was just like, oh man, like this is what I've always wanted to do. Yeah. Like we can take this band and put it in front of people that have been listening to these albums that have never had the chance to see this band because it has never toured and it's existed for like 15 plus years,
Right.
And, Zero was all about it too. He's like, I want to do it. So we were going to do it. And then there was a lot of tension. We were getting ready to go into the studio and things just kind of boiled over. And we started fighting. And, I remember one of the last really hard conversations I had with Shane was, I was in his car and he was like, you know what, man, like, you're young, you're motivated. Like, I really just feel like you should do your own thing.
Right.
Like, go off, do your own thing. And, funny enough, he literally said, like, go off, be like Michael Graves. Like, do your own thing. Have your own band. Like, do the Windhawk band, whatever. And I almost feel like he kind of said it, like in jest, like, just, get out of my face. Like, go do your thing. But I did. I was like, you know what? Like, I think you're right. And maybe it is time for me to not participate anymore. So we canceled Ghouls Night Out because I think ultimately the singer realized if it was going to create problems with him and the other founding member, Shane, the drummer, he's like, I work full time in a paint factory. Like, this is the one thing I have that really makes me happy. And if I sacrifice, part of my relationship with him to go do this show in Jersey. When I come home, I'm not going to have those 2 hours a week of practice where I can just drink and like forget my fucking day job and have a good time. And I think he saw that maybe possibly that door closing on him, and he didn't like it. And he was like, you know what? I'm playing it safe. Like, fuck it. Shane's not doing it. I'm not doing it. So it just became, it was just dead in the water.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, I had been talking to Goolsby, and Goolsby's like, hey man, like, you're before the cancellation, he's like, hey man, so like you're in Die Monster Die, like you're gonna come out anyway. I'm doing a solo thing. Do you maybe want to play guitar? And I was like, hell yeah, I would love to. And then Die Monster Die canceled, and I was like, well, I guess I'm all yours, man. Like whatever you need, I'll do it. So I just spent that summer after we recorded the last Die Monster Die album. I just spent that summer working on all this Goolsby stuff, and then flew out that summer, and that was my first time meeting Jason. I had met Joe at a Blitzkid show previously, but yeah, I mean, that was like my initial exposure to the whole Jersey scene.
Right. Was this the first one back in Dingbats, or was this a second year in Dingbats? I
it was 2013, so I think it was the second, because I think Blitzkid did the 2012 one with their farewell stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Word fucking yeah, unbeknownst to you really, or anyone, because I've really never talked about it, but like you were hitting me up on the side when we were about to do the Darrow Indiegogo, and like you gave me a lot of confidence that it was all right for me to, like, I was doing the right thing, because I was getting pushed back too. You know, Joe wasn't sold on it. I had to sell Joe on the fact that like this is the way we should do it. Like we're, you know, the industry's changing. In my eyes, the fans have always been the thing that drives the band. You're getting revenue from the fans, and since the industry changed so much, and you see really no money from fucking record sales anymore, that you have to adapt and fucking find a new way to do it. And it's not like we were having a handout and fucking saying give us money. We're giving concrete things in return. I'm like, this is like, we're gonna work hard and they're gonna fucking support us. It goes, you know, it's a cycle here, and this is
Absolutely.
the way it's always been, just a new format to do it. And yeah, you actually were like there on the side, fucking telling me it was a great idea and we're gonna do it fucking the way we were doing it was right. And I'm like, you know what? Goddamn right it is. We're gonna fucking make it. And I'm sure you remember, I was like, I don't know if we were asking for what, 10 grand?
I think it was 10, yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, man. He's like, and you're like, no, you got this. Don't worry about it. And I think we ended up getting like, what 12 or 13 or some shit.
Yeah, you guys went over your mark, yeah.
And we needed to go over the mark. In my head, I'm like, 10 grand ain't going to cut it, because we were doing the record, we were getting a van, we were getting a trailer, we were fucking doing all sorts of shit. And we had to make all that merch.
It was a lot of stuff.
And we had to make all that merch.
It was a lot of stuff. Yeah, I remember, man.
So in my head, I'm like, yo, if we don't make 13 grand, we're fucking in trouble, actually.
Yep. Well, you know, the thing is, like, it works if you have a strong work ethic.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, like, some people in the beginning definitely were like, well, what are you doing? Like, you're holding your hand out and you're begging for money. And I'm like, it's not, though. It's like a pre-sale. Like, if you actually have the drive to get this shit done, they're paying for what, like, they're going to get something out of this, you know? Like, you're going to create something really fucking awesome for these people. It's only a handout if you're dishonest about it and you take the money and then don't produce.
And don't produce anything, which, I mean, I guess some people, that's where the bad taste comes out, because one bad apple spoils the bunch. So when you got one person not producing something, everyone thinks that's the way it's going to be, but goddamn did we produce fucking.
No, man, I mean, that was awesome. Like, that period of time, like that, I guess it was like a period of like 5 years there where everybody was launching those projects and so much exciting shit was happening.
Yeah. And it was exciting because it opened the door for you not to need a label, because what people don't understand is that this is what the label did. They advanced the money to record and give you some tour support.
Exactly.
And then everything that you did from that point on was to pay the label back from everything they did for you. So what bands were doing was taking the power away from the labels and allowing the creativity to just stem from there. Like, I don't need to appease a label. I can do whatever I want right now, and it's between me and the fans. We've taken away the middle
Exactly.
guy, and here we go. It's always been that way. I was trying to tell our guys this, like, it's always been this way. We're just not doing it with a label. It's the same thing but different.
And I think it's awesome to be independent. Like, what a gift to have that, to
Yeah,
have the support of people to where like you can do it and you don't have to compromise about anything. Like, you don't have to submit what you've recorded and have it be scrutinized by a bunch of
right.
dudes about whether it's going to sell or not, or what's the hit on your album. Like,
Yeah,
it
and they
doesn't
have
matter to your real fans if you
yeah,
have a fucking hit or not. They just want to see you create shit.
and now they have a say because they've invested the money in you, so you feel kind of obligated to. Well, they're not happy with it, so maybe I got to change something up. This takes that out of
Hmm.
the equation completely.
Yeah, it's freedom, and I will never ever take that for granted. Like, my own project, I was able to pull off two separate Indiegogos, and yeah, I mean it's awesome, and I wouldn't have made it as far as I did without all those people supporting and actually believing in what I was trying to do. And in hindsight too, like, Shadow Windhawk was nothing. Like, I didn't really have anything behind that name aside from just like I had an idea
Right.
and I really believed in what I was doing and I was really passionate about what I was writing about, and this was like everything I wanted to do growing up. I was finally getting to do it. And I never dreamed that even a handful of people would give a shit. Like, when I started, I was like, I don't know how to sing. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I just want to do it so bad. So I did. But the fact that people were even willing to back me up and be like, you know what, like, we believe in you too. Like, go make your record the way you want to make
Yeah.
it. Like, that's a fucking gift that I'll always be grateful for, And on that note too, like, I remember Jason doing his, and he hit me up too, and he's like, dude, like, I don't know what I'm doing, and like, I really hope this works out. And I told him the same thing I told you. It was like, you're gonna kill it, dude. Like, you've got this,
Right.
And he did. He did. But that's been a really fucking hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Remembering talking to him about doing his second record finally, and it really seemed like that was going to happen. I've spent a lot of time since he passed wondering what that would have sounded
What would
like.
have been like? Yeah.
Yeah,
And just on the DL, he had so much support from a lot of fucking really talented people, like Johnny Yacht helping him write songs, Joe's helping him write songs, Goolsby's helping him write songs. Fucking, just because they all want. Here's an OG of our fucking crew, and they want that to survive and fucking the legacy of that to keep going. And he had powerhouses behind him, so yeah, it would have been fucking interesting to see how that would have turned out.
definitely would have. I remember John actually showed me some of the stuff that he wrote for him. And this was probably about a year before he died. And, he's like, I want to give this stuff to Jay. Like, I really, like, I want to help him
Yeah,
write this stuff. It was good too. It was really good. And I was like, dude, you got to do it. I think it's going to be amazing. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that all that happened, and then we've arrived here and
yeah,
2020 and like all this crazy shit going on in the world, and that's another thing. Like, I often wonder what he would have thought about all this shit if he was around to see it.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about that for a few people. Fucking, what would this person say
Yeah,
during this shit? You know?
so crazy, man. All of it is just, like I read the New York Times, I read the Post sometimes, and there was a article about COVID hitting the city, and it was like reflecting on all the people who died. And they had like an interview with this like 87-year-old woman, and she was like, 2020, the worst of all my years, easily the worst of all my years. And I remember I read that, and I'm like, damn, man, if grandma has lived almost 100
87-year-old.
fucking years,
Yeah.
and she's like, this is the worst one, I'm like, fuck 2020. Seriously.
Yeah. Somehow it's going to become the mother of all invention, right? So I'm sure some of the change coming from this will be good. It's just that we definitely can't see it now because we're in the middle of the fucking battle.
Yep.
But there'll be some things that come out of this that'll be good. But goddamn, it is some of the things are scary to think about. Fucking
Well, it's like great shit comes out of, moments of adversity, right? So,
Yep.
I mean, even though like we may lose a bunch of venues, we're going to lose a bunch of small businesses, neighborhoods will be changed forever. I mean, you got to think though about all those artists that are going through all this crazy shit right now, and that has to translate into something.
Yeah.
So I feel like if we can make it to the other side of all this shit, there's going to be some kind of crazy like renaissance of music. Just all these artists coming out with amazing shit.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of things are gonna close, and it seems like uh, deconstruction. But like out of the ashes, is always new construction, right? Like it just doesn't stay a
Hmm.
pile of rubble forever. Someone else comes in and all right, we're gonna give this a go again. It's not like it's just because one place closes down doesn't mean something else won't take its place in the near future. So hopefully there'll be a lot of that going on. People will capitalize on opportunity to do something new.
Yeah, and hopefully some of those, shelled out venues, like they're set up to be venues.
Yep,
Hopefully some of them at
they
least stay
stay.
intact. So
Yeah,
somebody comes in and goes, you know what, let's just start over with a different thing.
yeah. I hope so,
You
man.
got to hold out for that.
Yep.
So.
So all right, so now you're doing Shadow Windhawk, and there are moments of legitimacy, right? When a dude like Goolsby calls you and says, "Hey, you want to do this?" Like that's got to feel good. It makes you feel like everything you've kind of done. Now you're getting noticed to play with Goolsby, who's a very well known person in our scene.
Hmm.
Take me from there. Like, what? How did that feel good? Like, all right, you know what? Like, not that I made it, but like at least I'm a legitimate player playing with people who are important. Like, take me through that.
Um, that was a trip for me, honestly. Like, Blitzkid was a big deal to me long before I knew Goolsby or had even been able to like speak to him one on one. And so getting that shot was it was big. Like that, I'm not uh, afraid to admit that like it pretty much totally changed my life playing with him. Um, and he has in the time since then introduced me to a number of the best people I've ever met. Um, a lot of people I consider to be like among my best friends. I would not know them if it wasn't for him. And so in that respect, like I owe him a lot. And also, when I joined his band, I was still really young. I was 21, barely, and he gave me my shot,
Right.
you know, and yeah, like Goolsby's solo project is not like huge, but he labored with Blitzkid for so long
Yeah.
that yeah, I mean that counts for a lot, and I was so excited that he was going to come back and try something new. Um, I remember, I mean, I guess it just goes to show you that like sometimes you just have to fucking swing the bat. Like I didn't even know him very well, and after the Blitzkid farewell tour concluded in America, and they were in between heading overseas, to do the final leg of it, I hit him up, I believe on Facebook of all things, on Messenger, and I was like, hey, I'm a guitarist and I'm a big fan, and I love horror punk and I love all this shit. And if you ever need anybody to back you up, to be your guitar player, like, I will go the extra mile. I will fucking do whatever it takes. And I sent that, not really thinking that it would connect at all. It was just kind of like, it was like a shot in the dark. Like, I love this band. This band's breaking up. This guy's too talented to just sit on his hand. Like, he's got to have something coming next. So, like, whatever it is, I want to be throwing my hat in the ring. I did not think anything would happen, but it led to us starting to like talk on the phone. And we ended up kind of being like long distance friends. Like, he'd call and we'd talk for a couple hours about like what was going on and Die Monster Die, and I'm like, what's going on with you? And he's like, and so like we kind of like got to know each other, and it opened the door to so many things. So I'll always be grateful for that. But for me, being like 21 years old and just been in my first serious project, and that was kind of coming to an end, and then to get that call, like, it picked me up, because I was kind of feeling low, like things weren't going well with Die Monster Die, and I had put so much energy into it that I was feeling pretty defeated about how things were going. Like, it wasn't going well, and I felt really shitty about all of it. And I was like, what's next? And then lo and behold, he's like, okay, I'm going to do one show this year and I need another guitar player. So yeah, that was really exciting. And I just kind of tossed myself in there. Like, I remember the first rehearsal was at Sam Wolf's house in the basement, at her father's house. And
all this
like,
stuff. All this stuff makes a little more sense to me now, because I guess I had met you before the Goolsby thing, because you helped me book a Darrow show, and we came through with you, right? Like, you helped us get into.
Was that before?
It might have been before, because my brother's accident was in 2013. The Plastic Smile tour was definitely before that.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so, it was. It must have been in that same time frame, because I had met Joe at the last Blitzkid show that they did. It was Kilby Court in Salt Lake, which is basically like a garage. Like, it wasn't even like a venue.
Yeah. So it makes sense to me, because like, you were kind of bummed out, is what I'm guessing, right? You were like a little lost and then found your way eventually, but I had met you where you were still a little lost, right? And fucking, I'm like, what's wrong with this dude? Like, he's just fucking melancholy all the time. Like, your voice never picked up from fucking just a monotone thing. So actually, I used to read your posts every day in your voice.
Oh, God.
It became a thing to do, like, on long drives. I'm like, today in Shadow Windhawk Land.
Man.
And I would read, like, you would write these fucking long soliloquies about going in your pumpkin patch. And I would just read it in your...
Yep.
Today I went to the backyard and felt the brisk wind on my arm as my hairs raised up. And yeah, that became like the daily fucking... you became a daily source of fucking...
You're like reminding me of an embarrassing moment. I mean, using social media as my fucking journal, like, God only knows, man. That's one of the things about the internet that bothers me a lot, is like, that shit is all there. So I'm like, I don't really want to revisit it. It's kind of embarrassing.
Trust me, dude, you're not the only one, man. We all have everything we've ever said. It's all on there, Man,
I used to, when I was younger, I talked too much, dude. Like, I look back and I'm like, I should have just shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
about some things anyway, you know what I mean?
When your memories thing, your memories thing comes up, I'm like, holy shit, I said that. And like, sometimes, like, I see things I say when I was hammered. I'm like, holy shit, let me just delete this real quick.
one of the things I saw, I think it was this year that I saw, it's probably been around for a long time, that meme where it's like the Undertaker standing behind that guy and he's going like, and he's
Right.
like looking at him, and it's like me, Facebook memories. I was like, fuck, dude, it's so true. Like, I hate that.
Yeah, we
Um,
all have it.
yeah, man, it's I don't know.
But
It's been a journey, but
yeah,
Goolsby has taught me so much. Like, I
yeah,
didn't know how to tour. I didn't know how to be in a working band that was actually going out and getting shit done. And like that, in that sense, it was, being in his band has been completely invaluable, because it's
yeah,
like I looked at it like almost like I was like his apprentice of,
yeah.
in a way. Like he was passing down all this stuff to me that like it's only word of mouth. Like if you want to be a touring musician, you can't go to fucking school and learn that. Like you have to go and work with people who are on the road doing that shit
Yeah.
professionally all the time. That's the only way to learn. So like he taught me everything I know about that.
Yeah, and there's multiple levels to that too, right? So like you're just coming off a fucking project, you painted the picture already how you felt during that. You get the call from Goolsby, you do that. Um, but not only do you learn how to tour from Goolsby, but like here's a guy who is coming off the fucking back end of Blitzkid. It's not going to happen anymore, and he himself has to restart something. So seeing
Right.
that if he can do it, you certainly can fucking do it too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I also saw that a lot of that success came from his work ethic, and just how fucking stubborn he can be,
Right.
like in a good way.
Yeah.
Um, he's a tough motherfucker, that guy, and he's dealt with a lot of crazy shit, and he's done a lot. And but it was, I guess, humbling to see him go through starting over.
Mm.
Um, because being a Blitzkid fan, I'm like this dude with Blitzkid was like it for our scene. Like, he was sitting at the top of it at one point, and here he is starting over with a new band and inventing all these new ideas, and trying to, I guess, perfect what he started with a different project and create something completely new.
Yep.
And it's hard. It's really fucking hard, and I can only imagine how frustrating it would be to have to start over after, coming through all that shit that they went through with Blitzkid, and like actually getting signed on a major label and all of that stuff. To have to just go back from the ground up would be hard.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, we got great opportunities, and if it wasn't for Goolsby and like his relationship with Emilio and Stellar Corpses, like I never would have gotten to play the Whiskey. And that was probably one of the best moments of my life, honestly. Like that show, playing with Goolsby at the Whiskey A Go Go. Like if you told me when I was coming out of high school that eventually that would happen,
Right.
just out of sheer willpower, out of like I just want to do this. I'm not a good guitar player. I'm not a singer. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I just want to learn. I want to do it. And he really opened that door. And we had some, definitely on tour, we've had some surreal moments together. At least I've had some surreal
Yeah.
moments. Like,
Like when he's got to
so
drive himself to the hospital.
dude,
And
yeah, that was,
you pick up my
he
bass player that he just quit our band and he's got fucking he's got to be trucked around. He's
dude,
fucking it's just
Goolsby, he saw the Chupacabra that night. And
dude.
that's when I knew I was like, something's really wrong. Like, we were in Toledo, Ohio, and we were staying at this horrible motel. Joe and I ended up going in the room, and Goolsby stayed in the van. And the room was like being used as a storage space for like other shit for the motel. And I mean, there were roaches, and it was just gnarly. And Joe had some box that had like all these different movies on it. So we ended up
Yeah.
jerry rigging this thing, and we were watching like Salem's Lot. And Joe's an insomniac, and I am too. So we stayed up all night. I don't even think we went to sleep. But at like 5:30 in the morning, Goolsby got up and he was sick. Like not just like, oh, I feel a little sick. Like he was like doubling over. He was fucked up, and I was really worried. And but he is the way he is, and he likes being the one behind the wheel.
Right.
So I was like, if you need me to drive, like you should just let me know, and like I'm happy to help. And he's like, no, I got this, I'm fine. And I don't remember where it was exactly, but we started driving. I think we were in PA, and it got really bad to the point where like he had to pull over. He took himself to an Instacare.
Yeah, you guys
And
went to like an urgent care first.
and then he was like, no, they can't help me, like, you know, I got to go to an actual hospital, I think. That's what they were telling me, like. And because he had symptoms of appendicitis, so we ended up going to an ER. He went into the ER, and he comes out and he's like, I think I need to get my appendix removed, but I'm not having surgery here. Like, I want to go home. I just want to go home. I was like, okay, like whatever we got to do, but like, are you sure? Like, do you think that's safe? I mean, I don't want to go on the road and then have something bad happen, like in the middle of nowhere.
He said he was in that ER and like it just looked like completely unprofessional. Like he didn't think that they could do a fucking proper job.
He did not. Yeah, he did not like that vibe at all. And like, I totally get it. I mean, we didn't really know where we were. We were like in rural PA, I think. And he's like, dude, if I have to have surgery, he's like, I'm not dying here. I'm not dying here. I was like, okay, all right.
All right, got it. All right, let's go.
And I was like, yeah, let's go. So like
Did he
we
drive
went
himself?
And he started driving himself, and we had to get gas. And when we pulled over to get gas, he backed the van, the back of the treehouse, the fucking Blitzkid van, into a pole. And I was like, dude, you hit a pole. And he's like, okay. And I'm starting to get kind of like stars in my eyes. I was like, yeah, no, that's not good. Like, you need to take shotgun. I'm going to drive. And he finally, like, he let me drive. And I think it was while we were driving up towards Connecticut, he was like, holy shit, did you see that? I'm like, see what? He's like, it's like chupacabra. There was a chupacabra. And I'm like, no, there's nothing, dude.
Damn.
There's nothing. Like, you didn't see a chupacabra.
This is the first time I'm hearing of the chupacabra. He
Yeah,
leaves this part out when he talks about this story.
Like, God, it's fucking chupacabra. He was convinced he saw it. And I was like, I don't think that there's anything, dude. I don't know, but it was scary because I mean, you could tell like he was holding on, he was hanging in, but like he was, I think, starting to lose his vision a little bit from how painful it was. And somehow we made it. So like my friend Fred Hilliker was supposed to meet us.
Oh yeah, Freddie.
Joe and I in Jersey. Like, the original plan was I was going to get dropped off in Clifton, and Fred was going to help get me back to Queens because I was living in Kew Gardens. And then with, you know, we got this whole thing happened, and it was like, okay, I'm going to Connecticut. And Fred's like, oh shit, like, what do you mean you're going to Connecticut? I'm like, Goolsby's got to go to the ER, like something's wrong. And so Fred is one of the best people I've ever met, and he was like, I'm gonna be there. I was like, you're like in Jersey, right? And he's like, well, I was headed there, and now I'm headed there. So he drove all the way to New Milford, and he met us in the parking lot of the hospital. And so for the last little stretch, like, we got into New Milford. I'm like, I don't know where I am, and you could tell like the clock was ticking with Steve, and he was like, fuck it, man, I know where I am. Like, I could get there. I'm like, okay, all right. He jumped into the driver's seat and drove himself the rest of the way through New Milford. We get to the parking lot. Fred's in the parking lot with a wheelchair.
Jumps right in the wheelchair.
Dude, Goolsby rolls out of the driver's seat into the wheelchair, and Fred wheels him into the ER. Like, that's how the tour ended. And that was, that shit was crazy. And then, like, so all my shit, because I was still in the process of moving. That was 2016. So like, part of the thing with that tour was Goolsby helped me load a bunch of my shit when we were in Salt Lake into the Blitzkid van, and we drove it across the country. So I had all this stuff in his van. So
Oh,
Fred,
no.
yeah, dude, it was crazy. So like then Fred was amazing, and he's like just pull all in my car, like we can make it fit. So we Tetrised all my shit into Fred's car, and I went back into the hospital. I went into the ER, and Goolsby's laid out on a bed, and he's like, "Hey man, not much for long goodbyes. So see you soon." I'm like, "Okay, all right." Like you're gonna be wheeled into surgery in a minute. Okay, like this is fucking nuts. And yeah, and then that same night he had his appendix removed, and they told him that if we hadn't made it when we did, it might have burst and killed.
Ugh.
It could have killed him. So that was
God
some real
damn.
shit. Not expecting that. And that all happened in like a 24-hour period. Like it
Yeah.
was like that morning we knew something was wrong. We started driving, and then like late that night he had surgery. So it was like we barely made it.
You talk about a rough stretch too, because that's the reason Joe was with you is because our gear got stolen and we all got into an
Right.
argument, and fucking Joe was like, "Fuck you guys, I'm out." He fucking
Yep.
jumped into the fucking van with you guys. And
Yep.
then, but on that tour, like you guys also got robbed, right? Like, or at least Stellar Corpses got robbed.
Oh yeah, Stellar Corpses got all their shit jacked in San Antonio the same night that you guys got robbed in Vegas.
Yeah.
So
So this is
and
all
then
within
they
like a week and a half of each other. Like all this happened like right in that
yeah,
same stretch.
yeah, it was I think that tour was like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks or something, and then I believe Goolsby also that on that tour we did like a video shoot. I think that
That's
was
right.
that one in Salt Lake. So
Like
yeah, it was
Babadook, right?
on
Or no, in Votive Light.
in Votive Light, I think. And then yeah, the drive back, like the tour had already concluded and everyone kind of split up, and then it was just me and Goolsby and Joe driving back all the way across the country, and we had, obviously there were no shows lined up, so it was just a haul all the way across the country.
Oh man.
And man, yeah, it was pretty wild, but ultimately I was just super thankful for Fred, and I was really thankful that like that we have good friends, and that we were able to get him to the hospital and take care of that. But the thing with Stellar Corpses was crazy because I remember when we were in San Antonio, and I was like, I think they had a friend's wedding. Hannah and Steve were getting married, so Stellar had Dusty had officiated a wedding
Right.
for them, and they were all hanging out like in their neck of the woods, and we were at some hotel in San Antonio. I believe it was San Antonio, but there was some discussion of like, should we stay? And I remember Goolsby had a bad feeling, and
Yeah.
he was like, "No." He's like, "No, we need to keep going. Like I don't think we should stay." And Stellar Courts has stayed a bit longer, and they got robbed in Hannah and Steve's neighborhood, like on the street. They cut the lock off the trailer and just started like hauling
Yeah.
gear out. And they ended up finding some of it. I can't remember where it was, but they found some of the drums eventually. But yeah, I mean, like everything got jacked except for some of their merch.
They did not
So,
find shit of mine, and I'll tell you, some of the stuff I had was like one of a kind. I had my case that rack case I had with my amp and all the rack gear inside of it with the two
oh
drawers. Like
yeah,
that was
yeah.
custom made for me. So it's not
Mhm.
like there's a bunch of those laying around. Fucking that guitar, one of them was a Ball Family Reserve, which means it's handmade at the factory. So there's not a bunch of those laying around, and fucking yeah,
Mm-mm.
those were never recovered. Those serial numbers went out to everywhere. Fucking nothing, dude, nothing ever. So
And didn't Joe borrow a Rickenbacker or
yeah,
something?
it was Wolfer's Rickenbacker.
Oh, ouch.
Sorry, Wolfer.
Yeah.
But
Oh
yeah,
man.
it was a fucking.
Yeah.
That was a rough stretch right there.
It was weird because they were literally texting us like, "Hey, we just got robbed," and we at that time I was reading about you guys getting robbed.
Yeah,
I'm like, really? Like the same night? Like, what are the odds?
dude, you should have seen my how that happened and how I found out. Um, we get to Vegas too early to check into the hotel. Um, so me and Joe go have a couple of drinks at the casino hotel that we're gonna stay at, and people stayed at the van until it was check-in time. So it was hours that we had that people were just crashing in the van sleeping. Okay.
Mhm.
Finally, I get a buzz from the hotel like, all right, you guys can check in now. So I go tell those guys they can check in. At this point, it's fucking maybe, I don't know, 2 in the afternoon, 1 in the afternoon. They go check in. Everyone just like freshens up real quick, takes a shower, and maybe takes like a fucking 45 minute to an hour nap. And by fucking 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we were gonna leave for the venue. So the truck was only left alone for 2 hours. And in that 2 hour time, someone fucking just took the fucking trailer off the fucking hitch, re-hitched it, and fucking left with all our shit.
Ugh.
And in mid afternoon, we're talking about between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. So this is not the middle of the night. This is not fucking anything. Yeah, fucking jacked it right in broad daylight. None of the cameras saw the people do it, but we couldn't get like a good look at their license plate. We couldn't get a good look at nothing. But
Wow.
I walked to the van first. I was the first one to the van. I thought I was late. I was having weird dreams actually. I had a dream that Joe and Quincy said they were going to the venue. Um, without you guys, find your way there, right? And then I woke up from sleeping in the room. I'm like, fuck, I'm late. I gotta go to the van. I'm walking to the van. I can't see the van at first because the trailer's not behind her. I'm kind of looking for a long vehicle with the thing behind it. So I'm looking at it. I don't see the van. I'm like, maybe that wasn't a dream. Maybe they left me. I gotta find my way to the venue. I
Oh
keep
no.
walking closer and closer, and now I see the van, and there's nothing behind it. So, dude, like I walk up to the van, I walk completely around it, just staring at it. Just looking. I'm like, the trailer's not here. We had a trailer. It's not here.
Oh,
So did they
oh
take the
no.
trailer? Did Lemon get? I don't fucking know what's going on. And like it just all hits me, dude. Like this shit was stolen. Like no one fucking went anywhere. I called the cops immediately. Reported it stolen, and I'm just sitting there with I'm in the driver's seat. I got my head fucking just planted on the steering wheel, and Michael and everyone's starting walking towards me, and they're like, "Is Loki sleeping in the driver's seat right now?" No, dog. Like, look behind the truck, and they're looking behind the truck, like what? What do you mean? I'm like, "There's no trailer there," and they're like, "Oh fuck." Yeah, I'm like, "Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's gone." So
Yeah,
dude,
that's the worst
the
nightmare.
pit in my stomach, it felt like there was a shotgun blast in my fucking stomach. Like, like all that stuff is just gone. Ugh, like a legacy of
Yeah.
things. Like you sometimes people just view things as things, but this is like a legacy of stuff. Like,
Mhm.
you know, collection of shirts, which, I was like, Joe, shut up about your shirts, but like he's right. There's a collection of shit that he's collected since he was fucking 15. So it means something to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, he told me all about that
All
when
I
we were
could think
driving
about
back. I was like, oh.
all I could think about was like 15 grand worth of guitar gear. I'm like, I don't want to hear about shirts right now. Like everything I've ever worked for was in there, and it's gone.
Yeah, and when you're a working class
Yeah,
touring musician, like there's not money to replace stuff
no.
like that. So I mean,
It's kind of an accumulation of a lifetime of work, man. Those guitar cabs were fucking from the Gotham Road days. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not like I've
wow.
spent all this cash to do this fancy tour. No, dude, that's like a collection of stuff that it's incrementally been upgraded or built. Gone.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Yeah. Um, Tragic,
Yeah.
honestly. Like the whole trailer. not even didn't spare
They just
anything. I
fucking
mean, with
took the whole thing.
Stellar,
They found the
they
trailer
at least had
eventually,
some
but there was
stuff to
nothing inside
sell.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so brutal.
I got so
That's so
shit
brutal.
faced that night in Las Vegas. We played a
I
show.
bet.
We still played a show. We fucking that night we like I just
Borrowed
borrowed our friends.
everything.
Yeah, and like I'm doing all sorts of shit that I shouldn't be doing, plus drinking on top of it. I didn't give a fuck. Like, all right, I have to
Yeah,
muster through this. Here we go.
God, it's like literally the worst nightmare. I remember Stellar played in El Paso. I believe we were in El Paso, and they played that night with the Roving Midnight gear, and you know, Dan Lamoth, their bass player, or I guess former bass player, he's an upright player. So, and that upright had had like a tremendous amount of sentimental value to him. He had had it since he was a teenager, and it was like his baby. So, I mean, I just remember I felt so horrible for them because they played, but he hadn't played a show with an electric bass in years, and
Right.
he
Was
was
that fucking
playing
him up?
Goolsby's. No, they sounded good,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, but like you could tell he was like,
It's like
man, this
you're playing
sucks.
with a heavy
Like,
heart. You know, it's like, ugh.
yeah, they were bummed, and imagine going from playing like upright to playing Goolsby's Aerodyne, and like you're trying to translate what you would usually do, but you have to do it a completely different way, and you haven't even rehearsed that way. And there weren't that many people there that night, but yeah, that was a hard night for those guys. I felt so bad for them.
Yeah. We actually mustered on because the next night we sold out the whiskey, so we're like can't cancel a sold out show. Maybe this will make us even fucking feel better to end on a high note. Sold out show. So we traveled to L.A. to play the fucking whiskey. All of us are just fucking hating life. Uh, we're actually co-headlining with Wednesday 13.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so I'm like trying to get in touch with the whiskey to see if I can get in touch with someone from Wednesday 13 to see if I can borrow the gear. Like the guy also has an Axe FX. I had an Axe FX. I'm like, there won't be any loss in sound. It'll be the same shit. Fucking, and it's an Axe FX, so he's not gonna lose any of his settings. He just fucking hits his fucking preset. Boom, away he goes. So I'm like, this should be a no-brainer. Wednesday 13 told us to go fuck ourselves. Not in those words, but I mean they let us down nicely. But Jesus fucking Christ, guys, you can't do me a fucking solid. Like, really? Like, really? I
Oh
don't
man.
often talk shit publicly like this, but like, really? You couldn't have just been nice for fucking once. Like, these guys have gone through hell the past couple of days. Let me just let him use my Axe effects. It doesn't affect my fucking shit whatsoever. And that's the nice excuse he says. He's like, oh, shit's set the way it is. I don't want to fuck with it. I wanted to say, it's a fucking Axe effects. Are you stupid? You don't know how to fucking, you just hit one button. Everything's fucking reverted back to how you said it. I was so aggravated. So we ended up playing on like shitty gear. Fucking they didn't let us borrow anything, dude. None of the backline. So like we played on like less than stellar fucking gear, and that made it even more. You're up there and playing on instruments and sound behind you that kind of sucks. It just makes you less enthused to play than we already were. So that show was just fucking awful because we thought we were gonna go be victorious, play this fucking sold out show. No, dude, it was fucking a nightmare.
And like obviously it would have been one thing if you guys were just playing some dive bar, but the sold out whiskey show, like that's a huge bummer.
Shame on you, Wednesday 13. You couldn't just fucking do it. What the fuck? I would have turn it around, dude. Imagine your shit gets stolen. You ask fucking our band to fucking at least borrow some fucking amps and shit. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer to say, yeah, dude, I'm sorry you're having a shit week. The least we could do is just fucking let you finish it out. This is your last show. Finish it out on my shit. No problem. No problem. Nope. shitty people.
Man,
All right, that's enough.
yeah, that's a rough one, dude. It's a rough one. I definitely would have been super defeated if
Yeah.
I was in that position. So I get it. I think Joe, like, didn't he play like a pink bass or
I
something?
don't remember.
Like, like he was telling me when we were driving back, he's like, dude, that was whack. Like
It
I,
was so whack.
oh,
It was a terrible. Those are terrible times. Just when you think it can't get shittier, right? Fucking it does.
yeah, yeah. I mean, looking back now, like you can laugh at it, but
Yeah.
yeah, horrible.
So, what goes on now in the Windhawk? Like now you have multiple releases, right? Like you're fucking.
Hmm.
You got a whole bunch of stuff happening. What? Tell me about the history of Shadow Windhawk now, and where do you have a band? Where do you expect to take it once the music world returns? Like what?
Well, for live stuff, I've been working in the past few years with the guys from Damnation.
Oh
Um,
damn! Love those guys.
yeah, they're
Isaac
great.
is a fucking party buddy for me.
Yeah, yeah. Isaac can hang for sure. And he's a fantastic guitar player and a
Yeah.
really, really
I always
talented
make sure I crash at
musician.
their house when I go up there. I'm going to Isaac's house.
Dude, I mean that's where it's at with Jackson Leonard,
Yep.
the Pity. Yeah. Those guys are really cool, and we did like one mini tour together. When was that? Was that last year? I think it was last year in February. We did like a weekend, and then we went out in April and did a week long thing. And so I would like to be able to do that with them again.
Yeah.
As far as albums go, I came up with this thing that I call like the funerary trilogy. So like the first three records I put out were all very like funeral death themed, um specifically with like the album titles themselves, like Casket Spray, which is like an arrangement of funeral flowers that sits on the casket. And then I did Cremation Garden, and the third one is called the Funeral Cortege, which is like a funeral procession. And I came up with that just because I'd been going to a lot of funerals, and I started to look at life as like this this you could see the cycle of it, I guess. And
Yeah.
I started to really get a sense of how finite everything is. And I realized that life is amazing, but it's like a funeral procession. I
Yeah.
mean, you're born and you're guaranteed that you have X amount of time,
There is an
and
expiration
you
date. Absolutely.
exactly. So I guess that's where my head was at with that, and I was writing a lot about that. On that record, I have a song that's about George Romero. He passed when I was writing material for that record, and I actually ended up taking a Greyhound bus to Toronto, Canada by myself, because his family was gracious enough to have his viewing be public. So he was my favorite film director of all time. Dawn of the Dead is probably like easily top 5 best movies of all time for me. And he had a huge influence on me when I was a kid. So I went out to Canada totally by myself. Went to Toronto. I got a Uber all the way to the cemetery where they had the chapel and they were doing the viewing. And like when you went in there, it was really great. They had everything set up with like stuff from his life, like awards he had won. When you entered the chapel, there was this nice, really big photograph of him and Stephen King on the set of Creepshow, and above his casket was a projection screen, and they were playing Creepshow.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I was among the first people that were allowed in. We kind of started like lining up, And it was very strange because there was a private ceremony the day after, but the first day was public, and there was a mix of people that knew him personally and fans. And one of the people in line was Greg Nicotero, who had just started being the showrunner for Walking Dead. This was like 2017, and he was just visibly distraught. There were a lot of people that were just so sad, and then, you know, this odd mixture of like hardcore fanboys. And I remember like being in that line and thinking to myself, like, none of you motherfuckers better treat this shit like a fucking convention. Like, I swear to God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like, it's amazing we're even able to be here. And, you know, and some dude tried to bother Greg while he was in line. I was like, oh, it was like the cringiest thing I've ever seen. He's like, oh my gosh, Greg Nicotero. And I was like, dude, don't. Now is not the fucking time.
Some people have
And
no etiquette, dude. It
oh,
blows my mind, the lack of
it was
etiquette.
horrible. But so when we got in there, something that really struck me was there was a flower arrangement behind his casket in the shape of the fiend skull.
Right.
And before I got there, I bought a white rose to give to his widow. And so I got up to the front of the chapel. His family was standing there in a line. I shook all their hands and like gave them condolences, and I gave the rose to his wife. And I got my moment. Like, I stood in front of his casket,
right,
with him inside it, and Creepshow's playing, and it was the sequence with Leslie Nielsen. He's going like, I can hold my breath for a long time, and he's buried, and he's gonna drown. And I was like, dude, this is crazy. Like, this guy is responsible for so much of what we do, like who we are. Night of the Living Dead. I mean, so that flower arrangement, there was a tag on it, and it said, you know, we love you, the Misfits. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, holy fucking shit. You know, it set in on me, and I felt really stupid because I was like trying so hard not to cry, because I was like, you didn't know him, like you don't have the right to like really get emotional about this. You know, with his family standing there being strong and like trying to tough their way through like the hardest day of their lives. But I couldn't help it, and I started crying. I walked out of the chapel, and there was an attendant handing tissues out. So I like took one, and it started raining like right away. And I just, right in that moment, I was like, I have to write music about this. Like, this is one of the most profound moments I've ever had, like standing in front of the casket of one of my personal heroes. And so I sat in that graveyard, and I ended up writing material that became two different songs that came out on that record. So I wrote the song Cortege, and in that song, like, a lot of the lyrics are referencing the experience of actually being there. So like, there's a line that I say in that song a lot. It's like, black flowers smile, and that is actually referring to the fiend skull flower arrangement. And then I use the sample from Creepshow at the end of the song. And so I think for a lot of people that don't know the context of it, it's almost like they get it as they interpret it as being very like on the nose, like, oh, well, song's clearly about Creepshow, like there's a sample in it from Creepshow. But in reality, it's about going to George Romero's funeral and just that experience. And then I ended up writing a tribute song to him called 14 Mile Tombstone. And as fate would have it, the year after, no, it wasn't even the year after, it was the same year. That was in the summer. It was in July 2017. And then in October that same year, I went to a screening of Basket Case at the MoMA.
Right.
Are you familiar with that one? Crazy Grindhouse movie. And the director, Frank Henenlotter, was good friends with Romero. They kind of came up together in a way. Like, Romero was born in the Bronx, and Henenlotter was, I believe, from Manhattan. And so, long story short, George's daughter was there, and I recognized her from the viewing, and it felt kind of awkward, but like I approached her and I was like, hey, are you George Romero's daughter? And she's like, yeah, my name's Tina. And I'm like, holy shit, like I took a Greyhound bus up there to be at your dad's viewing, and yeah, I didn't expect to see you here. And she was like, oh wow, like I can't believe you came all that way. And like it's very, serendipitous that like we kind of like ran into each other. And I told her about the song I was writing, and we started spitballing ideas because apparently, she went to NYU and has a bit of a film background. So, we were discussing the idea of, if I came up with a tribute song for her father, that maybe she would help me do a music video for it.
Okay.
Which, I haven't really mentioned that to anybody. It didn't really fully materialize, although it still could. But
well, now the whopping 5 people that watch this will know about it.
Yeah. Yeah, all 5 of
all
them.
5.
But yeah, so that was pretty cool, and it gave me a chance to kind of like stay connected with her.
Awesome.
So when the song came out, I sent it to her, and it took her a few days to write me back. She wrote me back, and she was like, the song, my dad would have loved it, and it made me cry in the best way, and it means a lot to me. And I was like, like that right there,
that alone is
makes it worth it.
Yeah,
like I don't care if the song isn't that great, or like people don't like it, or it never goes anywhere. Yeah, that was it for me. Like I like all of us, I don't do this shit because I have like delusions of grandeur that like I'm gonna be famous one day or anything like that. Like I do this shit because I really love it, and it's really personal, and that song in particular is super important. So like having that, being able to have that connection to somebody that was very, very close with him, and having their approval, like that meant the world to me. So but yeah, that record, I'm going to be putting that one out on vinyl finally, because that's the only album that I've done with my solo project that I haven't been able to press properly. So
I just read an article yesterday that vinyl has officially taken over as the highest selling physical medium since the first time since the early 80s that vinyl has overtaken CDs on fucking, or has overtaken to be the highest selling physical medium.
So is that even more than like Blu-ray and shit like that too? Or just in terms of music?
Just music.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, who buys CDs anymore?
Yeah.
I guess people still buy them, but there really is something special about holding an album and being absorbed by it, and also like having to just put yourself in the whole record, like not being able to cherry pick, like having to just sit there, you drop the needle and you listen to the whole thing as it's meant to be heard. And I guess it's good for deep listening.
Yeah,
like
that's it's a lost thing, right? Like I talk about that a lot. Like some of my favorite shit ever is like deep cuts,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that gets lost now.
Yeah, I mean, now I feel like people have such short attention spans with like Spotify and stuff. It's like a new record comes out and they kind of like skim through each song, like to find the one that's got the hook you like, and then you kind of like hang on that song, and you don't really appreciate the entire album as much.
I don't understand that sort of listening. I always, even on Spotify, it's not that I don't actively search out new music anymore. It's just the time that I spend my time on doing is just no longer listening to albums like that. Like I'm doing other shit now. But when I do like take the time to like listen to a band I respect, I want to hear their new record, like it's like I'm putting on the record. I'll listen it from the first track to the end. Fucking try to appreciate everything that's coming in. You never know like what's in there that's gonna fucking get to you. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily the single that they're trying to put out, because they're trying to put the banger out on the the first song, first or second song.
Mhm.
But then the rest of it is like where the good stuff is. It's where all the heart is.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
So yeah, it's fucking. I find it interesting that people are just buying more vinyl these days, because even the vinyl then is more of like a collector's item for a lot of people.
Mhm. Yeah,
Which is
I've started a vinyl collection again finally, and like I had one going in Salt Lake, and then when I moved to New York, I sold all my shit, and I've only just now been able to kind of start over. So it's been nice. My girlfriend got me a turntable for my
nice.
birthday, so that's been kind of fun. I actually got the Typo Negative black box set, the None
Fuck
More
yeah.
Negative box set. So that's been amazing. I mean, like certain records that are vital, I guess, for
Yeah.
me. There's just something different about hearing it on vinyl and being able to really like let it sink in and yeah, it's different than when I have like my AirPods in and I'm on the train or something. Like that's just background noise. But if
Yeah.
I really want to listen to something, like there's nothing better than actually being able to listen to it on physical media. So
Being a musician has kind of ruined my fucking ability to listen to music. I think that's another reason why I've just stopped listening to music, because I have a hard time now listening like a fan. And it's because like I have such a critical ear for production and shit like that now, because of recording my own stuff or the projects I've been in. Like,
mhm.
when you're producing your own stuff, you're listening beyond the other instruments and really fucking hyper focused on either the guitar or the drums or the fuck this.
Mhm.
And now I listen to music. I can't turn it off. I listen to music and I'll
Uh
have to listen. I need to listen to a new song like 25 times, because like I will just miss everything but the bass on one song and just miss everything but the
mhm.
guitar. So my listening experience is, being a musician has like made it a shitty experience for me.
Yeah, I totally get that. Like I think it's a lot different now for me as well, like having some recording experience and knowing what it's like to actually have to create a song from scratch. That's a big reason why it's extremely difficult for me to listen to my own stuff once it's done. Because of having to focus so intensely on it and listen to it on all these different speakers, and if there's a flaw, it sticks out and drives me crazy. And then when you're trying to get your final mix done and you're sending your mix notes and you're hoping that you've covered everything and you're finally going to get like the most perfect version of it you can get,
Right.
and you sign off on it, and then you're listening to the album again like with fresh ears maybe a month down the road, and you hear something and you're like, fuck, I
Fuck.
missed it. I missed it.
Yeah.
And you can't fix it. You have to at some point just be like, okay, it's done. But yeah, I
Yes.
can't listen to
Sometimes
my own shit because of that.
You have to walk away from it, and like now having a home studio, dude, I'll do something, and by the time I'm done tracking, I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, this is awesome. Right? It'll be like fucking 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll wake up.
Yep.
I'll put my system back on. Go into Pro Tools session. Press play. I'm like, I'm flat there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the fuck was I thinking? What, like last night
Yeah.
this sounded so good. I wake up this morning, it's like someone, like the Gremlins fucked with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like, what was I thinking about? Yeah.
Doesn't make
Yep.
sense. Well, dude, we're at it 2 hours, so we'll call it a fucking night here, and
Great.
maybe we'll get you on next time. I want like my future podcast, instead of one on one, I want like a panel,
That would be
a bunch of
awesome.
people. Yeah, so we'll get a
Yeah.
bunch of OGs on here and talk shit, because like we did a tour together. We didn't talk about that. Fucking,
Oh yeah.
you
Yeah, that's right.
know. So
Yeah, man, there's a lot to cover. I mean, I haven't really been able to like sit down and chat with you in a long time, so
yeah,
this
it's
has
been a
been
fucking
fun.
minute. Yeah.
It's been cool. Yeah.
We didn't even touch on Trioxin tribute. So yeah, there's plenty of shit to talk about with other people. Maybe I'll do like a panel and we'll all get together again and do it like that.
Yeah. It'd be
Well,
cool to even do a show that's, about like Trioxin
yeah,
Fest and
yeah.
everything
In the
and
future of that, because I know he wants to do that again. And Mama Sin has been awesome. She's been like live with us every fucking night that I do this, and she's been like in the comments and because we've been, I've been going back retrospectively to the beginning of my
mhm.
career with Joe and everybody. So I'm sure it's fun for her to see and hear like the stories of everyone, like when we first got together and that stuff. So yeah, Mama Sin wants that legacy to keep going. So I'm curious about the future of Trioxin Tribute post Corona
Oh,
world.
me too. I think it goes without saying we have to do it
Yeah.
a second time. We still need to make that happen. And I'm all in on it. Just, as long as we can do it safely and we get to the other side of all this shit, like we definitely need to do it.
Fuck yeah.
So,
Well, Shadow Windhawk, thank you for fucking joining me. And yeah, I'll see you next time. I'm gonna roll some outro music. Stay right there.
all right, man.